Okay, so yeah, one thing I forgot we've been talking about lately is the SAG Awards and stuff. I forgot the original date for the Critics' Choice was going to be here on January the 9th, but the Omicron kind of moved that back and everything. But the Globes, since they've kind of announced they're not going to really have too much of a crowd there and stuff, they're going to go ahead and have their awards tomorrow night. And yeah, I kind of thought about it. I was like, at first I was like, ooh, we haven't had a lot of coverage on the Globes this year from a lot of other sites and stuff. So I'm like, I was like, at first I was thinking like, because tomorrow my time's gonna be a little limited, but first I was thinking I'll just do a thing there afterwards because we kind of already talked about who would win early on, but yeah, then I was like, well, I got time because it's kind of late when I'm filming this now here on Saturday, but yeah, I was like, you know what? Yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll run through stuff again real quick for who's going to win, who could win, and stuff, and what potential it could have on the rest of the Oscar season. So, yeah, just out of respect to what the Globes formerly were and might be again one day, I was like, you know what? Yeah, let me go ahead and I'll just go ahead and run through the categories here real quick. And then we will cover the SAG Awards final predictions. We'll get into those I think later this week. I should have time on Monday or Tuesday to get that done before Wednesday's nominations come out. So yeah, the only thing, of course, though about the SAGs is actually I looked up the time that they're announcing those does not work for me. So live reactions is not going to be a thing for the SAG Awards this year, unfortunately. But and that's on a Wednesday too, and so even the afternoon hour for me gets a little crowded on Wednesdays. So so if you don't see reactions or kind of afterwards, thoughts on that right away, that's why. So it might be later on Wednesday when we finally get around to the reactions to who got in at SAG versus who missed and stuff like that. So, with that all out of the way, we're going to go ahead and jump in here because we've also got, since last time, four more films I've watched that I caught up with that we'll get to here. And I've still got quite a few to go through and stuff. I was hoping today I would actually get to one that's still in theaters, like West Side Story or Nightmare Alley or Licorice Pizza, but we had way too many ball games on today and stuff that I wanted to watch, and a lot of great games, a lot of great upsets today in college basketball, but yeah, you guys don't care about that. Anyways, yeah, so let's go ahead and we'll go with the categories here for the Globes and just kind of, last minute thoughts and stuff, who could win. Again, there hasn't been a ton of coverage on this, so we have no idea how they're going to vote. And a lot of sites are not running anything prediction-wise as well. So again, this will kind of be just a whatever happens, happens, but here's my 2 cents on what they would traditionally do or thoughts on what they might do and stuff like that. Okay, so we'll start with the foreign language film category. Nominees here again are Compartment Number 6, Drive My Car, The Hand of God, A Hero, and Parallel Mothers. And I think all of these except Parallel Mothers are going to be eligible for the Oscars. Drive My Car seems like the safe bet here. Parallel Mothers also feels like it could get an argument here for the win since it has another nomination in score, and also because it's a little more likely at the Oscars to be a bigger player. I mean, it could still, I haven't been thinking about it recently, but Best Director we could still be sleeping on for Almodovar to get in. Best Actress is still looking okay for Penelope Cruz. It could get in for Original Screenplay still. There's one or two slots there that are a little shaky at the Oscars. So we could see that one end up getting a decent haul there. But in the meantime here, I'm thinking also The Hand of God is one I would throw in there for the Globes. I mean, Italian films, I think, do tend to do pretty well here at the Globes. But I'm just going to go with the popular pick here and pick Drive My Car. Just on that. But The Hand of God, I think, is going to totally play spoiler there. So if that one wins, I am not at all going to be surprised. For animated feature, I think the foreign setting of Luca could benefit it again. Italy, that one's set in Italy. But we could see them actually go with Flea here, because we do have, as I've kind of been mentioning through the season here, the one thing all these award shows so far have gone with it, but I'm still saying when we come to the Oscars, it's not going to happen. There's no way we get Encanto, Luca, and Raya and the Last Dragon all in. I just don't see it happening. There's just it's just too much of a Disney / Pixar thing. So in this case, I am going to go again with the safer bet, which is Luca here. But watch out for Flea or Encanto, which is a little more recent. That one actually might be in play as well here. So again, there's kind of three that I would traditionally say, okay, be wary of these. So Luca just is the safe bet for now. Okay, looking at the rest, the other two other nominee we didn't get to there was My Sunny Maud, but I don't really think that's gonna stand much of a chance there. For nominees again for song, we have Be Alive from King Richard, I still have not, pronounce it, the one from Encanto, Dos Oruguitas, Down to Joy from Belfast, Here I Am, Singing My Way Home from Respect, and No Time to Die from No Time to Die. I think originally I was thinking Be Alive for this one, but I'm thinking an upset here. I think they're going to go with No Time to Die. And my reason being that the last two Bond songs have won here at the Globes. Both of those went on to win at the Oscars. They've just kind of been on that kick lately. Plus, it's Billie Eilish. And I know traditionally they would talk about, here at the Globes. Sometimes it seemed like, especially in some of the TV categories, like Lady Gaga when she won for American Horror Story, right away a lot of people were just firing off saying, oh, that's just, the Globes wanting the big star on stage and stuff. And maybe that mentality, yeah. And to a degree, almost everybody here, if they win, aside from maybe the one from Belfast, they're going to get a major celebrity up there. Because Jennifer Hudson was one of the songwriters there. Carole King is also a songwriter on the one from Respect. Obviously Billie Eilish. Obviously Lin-Manuel Miranda for Encanto. And then Beyonce for King Richard. So, I think King Richard, they're going to award other places during the night. So... yeah, I think the one from the Bond song, No Time to Die, I think that one is the one that upsets there. I think that's that one. Okay, original score. We have The French Dispatch from Alexandre Desplat, Encanto from Germaine Franco, Johnny Greenwood score for Power of the Dog, Parallel Mothers scored by Alberto Iglesias, and Dune score by Hans Zimmer. Dune seems to be a popular pick here. Desplat also is one we shouldn't shy away from here. I'm going to double check. I believe he's won a Globe in the past, at least once. He's got two. He's got two, actually, that's right. Yeah, Shape of Water I was thinking, but yeah, I forget. The Painted Veil he won for as well. And he could get a third for this one. Actually, yeah, French Dispatch is one that I saw. We'll get to that later because I have nothing but praises to say for that score. Nothing but praise for that score. So if it does win, I won't bat an eyelash because that is a fantastic score. And this is a tough category because it's like, okay, I can see Hans Zimmer winning because Dune, has the director and picture nominations. It's likely the only place they would give Dune something. It kind of feels like Black Panther. They got pretty much the same number of nominations. Picture, drama, score, but that one also got song versus Dune got director. So I sense that one actually suffering the same fate where it gets the some of those nominations here at the Globes, but it doesn't win anything. So I'm not picking Dune. And I think it does come down to either they're going to go with Johnny Greenwood, Desplat, or Encanto score, Germaine Franco. In this case, I think because it got the additional nomination there, I think I'm going to go with the upset again here and go Encanto. This one I was really kind of, before this, I was kind of looking over and I'm like, oh boy, I said, I'm really, really torn here because it could, any one of those four really stand a good chance. Alberto Iglesias, nothing against him, but no, I think it's down to the other four. Yeah, I just think they're going to go for it. I don't know. It's just a weird feeling I have. So if anything else, yeah, that's what I'm going with there. Okay, then we'll go to the screenplay category here next. So we've got Licorice Pizza, Belfast, The Power of the Dog, Don't Look Up, and Being the Ricardos here for screenplay. And yeah, I just think, regardless of how that Best Picture comedy musical category goes, I think they have to give Licorice Pizza something, so I'm going to give it here in Screenplay. Belfast is definitely one that could just win outright. Jane Campion's script for Power of the Dog could sneak up there, but I just don't know if that's really going to be their choice there. That doesn't feel like it. Aaron Sorkin just won last year, so I don't think so. Adam McKay has not won a Globe, actually, so even though Don't Look Up did do a little better here than we expected, I don't know, I don't know, because I only had it in the top 3 categories there, the 2 acting and picture for comedy musical. So I guess technically it is a little bit of overperforming for where I thought it would be. I don't really sense this being the one he wins screenplay for at the Globes. No, I think they go with I'm gonna go with PTA here. Okay, going into the acting categories. In supporting actress, we have Katrina Balfe for Belfast, Ariana DeBose for West Side Story, Kirsten Dunst for Power of the Dog, Aljona Ellis for King Richard, and Ruth Negga for Passing. And yeah, this one, I am kind of on this train right now where Aljona Ellis is going to win everything. And yeah, I think it's definitely she's in the running here. I think Kirsten Dunst is still in the running, and I think Ariana DeBose are kind of the 3 I have my eye on right now to win this thing. DeBose has actually done pretty well with some of these critics groups as well here for West Side Story. But just for now, I'm gonna stick with Aljona Ellis. So King Richard takes that one. In the supporting actor category, you've got Ben Affleck. Okay, I'm keeping that joke alive for The Tender Bar. Jamie Dornan and Ciarán Hinds both for Belfast. Troy Kotsur for Coda, and Cody Smith-McPhee for Power of the Dog. Now, I've seen 4 out of the 5 here. I would just be tickled to see Troy win this, and I would also be tickled to see Ciarán Hinds win this. Either one of those 2 are fantastic choices, but right now there's an atmosphere out there that it's going to be Cody Smith-McPhee for Power of the Dog. And this, I don't know, it just feels like a Brad Pitt thing to me, where it's like, you know what, I'm gonna put it down as my prediction to win. I'm just not really a big fan of the performance. If I see it again, because it's kind of as some people have alluded to, and I without giving everything away, it's definitely a performance that you can look at a different way when you see the film a second time. Once you know how the film ends, maybe you go back and you look at that and you're like, oh, okay, so maybe there's a couple things to look out for in the performance the second time around. So, I'm going to go with that just because I think both Troy, and on another note, I think Troy and Ciarán's potentially are going to, they're both going to split some votes there because they're both kind of that, playing to that same type of vote there where it's kind of the character who sticks out from the movie kind of deal. Okay, then moving on to the lead categories. We'll start with the comedy musical categories here. In Best Actress Comedy Musical, you have Marion Cotillard for Annette, Elena Heim for Licorice Pizza, Jennifer Lawrence for Don't Look Up, Emma Stone for Cruella, and Rachel Zegler for West Side Story. And yeah, I really think there actually might be a surprise here, even though nobody's talked about her. Marion Cotillard actually might walk away with this. I would actually not be shocked. Just because it was so out of nowhere, it just feels like, okay, maybe they put her in just because they like her that much. It kind of could be like from a comparison here from a couple years ago or a year ago, whatever it was, when Zendaya won for Euphoria at the Emmys. That was one where it's like, oh, they just put her in just because I guess they liked it enough. She ended up winning the award for Best Actress. So I would actually not be shocked if Marion did win this thing. But right now, I'm just going to go with the popular pick here, and that's Rachel Zegler for West Side Story. Again, Marion could totally play spoiler here, though. Otherwise, I don't know. Actually, Elena Heim, I think, will get some votes for sure. Emma Stone will actually probably get a couple votes in there as well. Jennifer Lawrence is fine and Don't Look Up, but I don't see her necessarily picking up a 4th Globe for this. I just don't think that's going to happen. Okay, actor in a musical or comedy would be Leonardo DiCaprio for Don't Look Up, Peter Dinklage for Cyrano, Andrew Garfield for Tick, Tick, Boom, Cooper Hoffman for Licorice Pizza, and Anthony Ramos for In the Heights. This one I feel a little more confident on. It's Andrew Garfield. I haven't seen this one yet. This is probably one of the next ones I'll get to. But everything around the movie, all the buzz is good. It feels like it's getting more confident in being a Best Picture nominee. We're just thinking, okay, if he gets in as well as the film, where else can they award it? It's on that level now, I think, at the Oscar race, where it's like, okay, can it maybe surprise us in screenplay? Can it maybe get like a sound nomination, which I have it in for now? Can it maybe get an editing nomination? Some people are a little more bullish on that. Yeah, so it's like it's starting to kind of get in that range there. So plus it's a younger actor who I think is pretty popular. He seems like one in a normal year you would go around and he'd be on the campaign trail really well. So Andrew Garfield there. Let's see, to the drama categories, actress in a drama, you have Jessica Chastain for Eyes of Tammy Faye, Olivia Colman for The Lost Daughter, Lady Gaga for House of Gucci, Nicole Kidman for Being the Ricardos, and Kristen Stewart for Spencer. And yeah, I think Chastain has won before, and Eyes of Tammy Faye is one I did see, but her performance is strong as it is. I think it's probably Kristen Stewart's to lose still. Even though Spencer has kind of fallen off the map for the Best Picture chance, the screenplay, director chances, any supporting cast getting in there, no, this really does feel like it's Best Actress, and probably that's it. Unless Greenwood somehow gets 2 nominations, but I don't think so. I think it's Kristen Stewart's to lose there. If anyone does play upset, though, I would actually look out also for Nicole Kidman. I think Nicole Kidman for Being the Ricardos, having not seen that one yet either, it just, especially since this also got Javier Bardem in, I think they, and screenplay, they like this movie. So I would actually not be blown over if they do go with Nicole Kidman in an upset there. So I think it's between those 3. Just because Olivia Colman, yeah, that one I don't think so. And Lady Gaga, they've given a couple prizes to in the past, so I don't think so. Turning over to actor in a drama, you've got Mahershala Ali for Swan Song, Javier Bardem for Being the Ricardos, Benedict Cumberbatch for Power of the Dog, Will Smith for King Richard, and Denzel Washington for Tragedy of Macbeth. I still think it's Will Smith. I think Cumberbatch is actually going to be a close second here. And it depends also, too, on just how much they like Power of the Dog, if they want to give it anything else. But for now, I'm thinking it's King Richard. Let's see, the director race. So here we've got Kenneth Branagh for Belfast, Jane Campion for Power of the Dog, Maggie Gyllenhaal for The Lost Daughter, Steven Spielberg for West Side Story, and Denis Villeneuve for Dune. I'm going to stick with my original choice here, and that is Kenneth Branagh. I think he was my original choice here, wasn't he? I've got him at the Oscars, too. But I just think Belfast is going to be a little more popular with this crowd than Power of the Dog. Even though, yeah, I can see Jane Campion winning this, and I think she's probably the popular pick right now still to win this and the Oscar. I just think Kenneth Branagh and Belfast, since it's such a personal story for him and everything, I just think they're gonna go with Kenneth Branagh. So then the 2 picture categories. Musical or comedy picture, you've got Cyrano, Don't Look Up, Licorice Pizza, Tick, Tick, Boom, and West Side Story. Really, I think the last 3 probably are the ones this comes down to. West Side Story was my original pick here, because it is the big kind of musical production, and traditionally at the Globes, when they have that, they go for it. Tick, Tick, Boom actually might not be completely out of the running there. It is definitely a film that's picked up in popularity here, so I can see him actually going 2 for 2 on that one. I mean, Bohemian Rhapsody, if we are not recalling incorrectly, that went 2 for 2 at the Globes, picture and actor. Obviously, that was in the drama category, but still, that could happen here with Tick, Tick, Boom. That's not a bad call to make, actually. And Licorice Pizza, again, in the Best Picture race, it seems like that one maybe has the edge over everything else here, as far as at the Oscars. Potentially. West Side Story is definitely starting to climb the charts again here for its chances there and everything. So, yeah, it's a tough choice, but West Side Story. I'm just going to stick with it just because it's that big musical, and again, they don't get the chance to award it all that often anymore. Musical or comedy, so yeah, West Side Story. And then for drama picture, you've got Belfast, Coda, Dune, King Richard, and Power of the Dog. I'm going to stick with my original one here as well and say Belfast. So yeah, I have Belfast getting a couple wins there. King Richard, I have getting a couple wins. West Side Story, I have getting a couple wins. Anything else getting multiple wins? So I think I just have Power of the Dog down for the one there for supporting actor. But that one actually could walk away with every category almost, except well, actually, yeah, I think it's in play for original score too, like I said. So maybe not screenplay. I don't know if it can do a true sweep like La La Land did, but and yeah, in the acting categories especially, that's a lot. That's a couple of upsets, almost for certain there. So yeah, I don't think it would quite do that well, but it's got a small shot to do that. Yeah. Otherwise, I don't know what else has multiple wins that I counted up there, but yeah. So after the awards are over tomorrow, we'll come back on and we'll discuss what won, what impact this has on the Oscars, if any, and all that. But yeah, it doesn't seem like from the latest announcements here, it doesn't seem like there's going to be all that much going on with the actual award show. There's not going to be a red carpet. There's not going to be press allowed. There's not going to be any major celebrities that are invited there. So it just seems like they're just going to live stream it and just announce the winners there. So I don't know if it's going to be an hour. I don't know if it's going to be half an hour. I don't know if they're going to try to make it like a 2-hour show and do all that. But again, since there's no stars, I'm not sure how. I mean, because I would imagine again a lot of the stars here are not going to. They're just going to look out for themselves and they're going to be like, I ain't showing up. I'm not streaming into that. I don't think so, at least. Obviously, last year was when they did the awards. It was a little different because we were still really into the pandemic there, big time with vaccines not being widely available yet and stuff. And Omicron, of course, has been the big discussion point here in the last couple of weeks because we've seen, like we've been talking about here in the last couple of videos, tons of sporting events called off, postponed and canceled. We've seen, like we said, Critics' Choice has now been postponed for the actual award show. And I don't think, last I've heard, they still haven't gotten an official date on that. So they're still working on that. Yeah, so it's kind of throwing a monkey wrench in everything again here. But yeah, we'll carry on. We'll do what we can do here. And I mean, in all honesty, I don't follow the news all that often with this stuff. But the one thing I've been hearing over and over again that people are optimistic about is because Omicron, I believe, started in South Africa. And it was pretty much, they said, after about a 3 week period there, it's like where cases were just going up and up. All of a sudden, they just dropped. And they're like, oh, it was kind of done. It had kind of gone through everybody. So yeah, it just seems like here in the U.S. it's been hitting kind of hard the last couple of weeks and everything. It feels like it still has that incubation period where it's 2 weeks or whatever. It feels like we're kind of getting toward the end of that. So God willing, I mean, everything works out here, and then presumably the next week and a half, we'll begin to see cases start to drop off again. Hopefully, if everything works out. But yeah. And yeah, it does seem like all the data matches that yes, this disease, this variant, I should say, of COVID, is not hitting as hard as far as number of hospitalizations, number of deaths directly from this variant and stuff. So that's all good news. And yeah, and it seems like here in this last week, it's like the number of for my again, since we're into full basketball swing now and stuff as far as sports go. For the stuff I pay attention to anyways. It seems like the number of postponed and canceled games is kind of shrinking a little bit. There's still some out there, obviously, but it's like, it used to be, especially when we had some of the Christmas season there, where it's like, okay, there's only about 4 or 5 games. It was like 3 out of the 5 were postponed or canceled, I think, or whatever. It was that, severe case there and stuff. But yeah, it seems like that's not necessarily been the case here. And obviously there's been a lot more games that have been scheduled here in like the last week or so, but it's like, there's kind of a big difference there, of course. But yeah. Anyway, so that's enough of my spiel there. Let's get into the spiel of the 4 movies I watched and caught up with here. And all of these, to a degree, are still in the Oscar race for sure. So yeah. So we'll see what chances they get, and if my opinion impacts anything. It definitely won't. But here we go. Okay. And I have to say, in all honesty, of these 4, one of them I thought was one of them is a winner. One of them is definitely going to be on my list for top 10 films of the year. Unless the rest of the films that I have to catch up with are better than it. And I really don't think so. Because I thoroughly enjoyed one of these movies. The other three I have very mixed emotions on, and while I'm discussing it, I'm going to be thinking in the back of my head, hopefully, because I don't really have a score on any of these three films, because I'm so all over the roadmap with all these. There's things that I liked in all of them, and there's things that I did not like in all of them. And the things that I didn't like in all of them are, they're kind of crippling. I mean, they're kind of something that makes me really look back on the film and say, I really don't think I'm going to watch that one again anytime soon, because it didn't, it's not one of those films I'm going to pick up when it's out on Blu-ray, DVD, or whatever and watch over and over again. None of them, except for one, and that one we'll get to. I don't want to spoil it right away because I fucking love this movie. Okay, and I actually just finished watching it like a couple minutes before I started recording here. So yes, I waited because sometimes I'll if it's one I'm watching through the computer here through streaming or whatever or VOD, I'll get like to a halfway mark or a good mark, and I'll be like, okay, I got to get this video done. So I'll say, okay, I watched so much of this, and then I'll get back to it later. Like I did that quite a bit last year. But this one I was like, I have to finish this movie. I'm like, I can't just stop it here because I'm just going to be thinking about it as I'm shooting the video, and I'll try to get to it right away tomorrow. But yeah. But no, I was like, this time I'm like, I'm not doing that. I got to finish this one. Okay, so let's start with, and this is in the order I saw them. So we'll start with The Eyes of Tammy Faye. So with this one, yeah, it's an okay movie and everything, and I think because I don't know, I probably should have known this going into it, but when I finally sat down and watched it, I'm like, oh, this is Tammy Faye and Jim Baker. How did I not know this going into it? I felt like an idiot. Now, of course, this was before my time, but still, it's like those names are so familiar. It's like, oh, how did I not think of it? And to be honest, the televangelist thing and all that, all the TV, people, whether it's this guys or Popoff, another televangelist from the 80s, or if it's modern day like Kenneth Copeland, all these guys burn in hell. I just despise this idea because it's just so money grubbing and so attention, me stuff. And I'm not against, because I'm a religious person myself. I'm a believer in stuff. Just for me, without getting too far into it before we offend people who are anti-religious or whatever. Just for me, as a person there, I did some stuff in high school where I was with a religious group. We'd go out and sing to different churches on Sunday mornings. It was perfectly innocent. There was no cult or whatever you would say there. No, there was nothing. It was just completely yep, we're just here to sing, and that was it. But also, I've just had so many close moments in my life where it's like, okay, something really, really, really bad could have happened, but because of one small thing, it didn't. There's multiple examples I can think of, but and again, we don't need to go into it because I'm going to take a while on some of these films discussions here, and it's so much, but it's like, you know what? I just I don't throw it to coincidence. I don't throw it to luck. I don't throw it to chance. I'm like, yeah, somebody up there likes me. It's kind of it's just my personal belief on it and everything. So yeah, that being said, the televangelist thing can go fucking burn in hell. I hate it. I hate the idea that it's still around. I really and nothing against the people who love that stuff and who donate to that stuff every week or whatever. Nothing against you, but I just for me personally, I just can't do it. If I watch more than 2 minutes of it, I feel like my brain is rotting. It's just so over the top and so dumb and so obvious what these people are doing. They're just manipulating. So anyway, so I'm not to offend anybody, but it's like, look, that I'm just, yeah. So I went into this. So I'm like, okay, obviously, most films when it comes to this stuff, they share that view and stuff. So I wasn't surprised to see that was the case here for this one. But what I was kind of surprised at was the fact that the film really actually doesn't really know what to do with Tammy Faye. Because Jim Baker, pretty, not from the start, but, once you get to a certain point in the movie, you can tell, oh, okay, yeah, we're depicting him this way, and it seems like, yeah, everything, this is based on a documentary, too, which I have not seen, but I'm kind of interested and curious into maybe looking into it at some point, just to see, what they covered in both and what doesn't cross over from one to the other and stuff. But the film comes down pretty clear on what they think of Jim Bakker. But with Tammy Faye, they're not really sure, because there's certain moments there where it's like, okay, she's kind of an innocent in this. And it's like she wasn't really aware of this is what Jim was doing in the background, behind the scenes, when she wasn't there, kind of stuff. But then it contradicts itself, and there's a moment or two, a couple scenes later, where she's in on it, and she's hyping up the deals, and she's doing this, she's doing that, where it's like, okay, well, she knew. She knew all the stuff then. And it's like, okay, well, movie, what are you doing? And it's like, it doesn't really, kind of like, it reminds me of The Front Runner from a couple, 2-3 years ago now. Or is it longer than that? Whatever. The Hugh Jackman one from Jason Reitman, where it's like, okay, that movie also it was juggling a lot of balls, where it's like, okay, the press is bad. What's the word I'm looking for? Paparazzi. The paparazzi is bad because they just sneak up on people and they break laws and they invade people's privacy and stuff. But it's also saying that the politicians are bad because this guy was bad. Gary Hart was bad because he was cheating on his wife and all this stuff. There was an affair, a scandal, and all this stuff. But the press is good for covering it. But the press is also bad because it's invading his privacy. And politicians are good because he's a Democrat, and he had good campaigns. And it was like, okay, so what's your stance on this exactly? It's like, okay, is Gary Hart the victim here, or is he the villain? Or is the press and paparazzi and the tabloids and everything, are they the hero or are they the villain? And that movie really did not know what to do from that standpoint. This one I don't think was as egregious, but at the same time I have to say it's just enough stuff going on there with Tammy Faye and everything where I'm like, okay, this movie isn't really coming down clear one way or another on that either. As far as performances and stuff go, yes, Chastain is excellent in this. She does have, as the Jim Bakker character says at one point, she's got that Betty Boop voice that kind of gets irritating after a while. But yeah, she's got the accent down, the makeup and everything, what they do with the makeup. I'm now understanding 100% why this is in on the short list and stuff. Because yeah, they really do a good job with her and with Andrew Garfield. And Andrew Garfield, I thought, was also very impressive here with his performance. I think he nails it too, between the accent and the characterization of it, the mannerisms of Jim Bakker, because I went back and I saw, because it's on all the posters and stuff, the Nightline stuff between Koppel and those two, which, I just watched like the first 3 minutes of it or so, just to kind of compare and contrast there, but I was like, oh yeah, I think they got a good sense of it and stuff. And, but yeah, I was, again, very impressed with those two performances especially. And I think, and it's weird because they put him in supporting actor, even though he's, I think he's got the screen time. So I would say he's probably more a lead actor in this than anything else. Obviously, that's direct competition against Tick, Tick, Boom. So, yeah. And, okay, yeah, we won't go there. But I was going to say he might have, okay, no, never mind. He might have a third film in there, I was going to say. But no, we're not going there. We're not going there. If you know, you know, but we're not going there. I'm not going to be blamed for that because it's still a relatively kind of thing. Anyways, but no, getting back to this one though. The Eyes of Tammy Faye, it's also kind of a film too where I thought, yeah, once we get into the second half, it kind of slows down a little bit, and I was finding it less and less interesting as it went on, because we all inevitably know, because we've seen it in all these other films, where it's like, okay, you know the whole organization, the channel that he's got, the shopping, the pledges, all that stuff's going to come crashing to the ground. You know the relationship is going to come crashing to the ground. All this, it's kind of a basic setup and a kind of deal, where it's like, okay, it doesn't really leave too much up for surprise there and stuff. So yeah, so this one, I think that's really about it for it. I mean, again, I would say I would recommend it for the performances. I would recommend it for all that stuff. And by the way, also I have to commend the set decoration and production design too, because they really do a good job with setting up the time periods that the movie is in, because it goes from 50s to 90s and kind of consistently goes through those decades appropriately. Also, the costume design gets some credit for that too. But it's like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I just don't really think there's enough there for me to recommend with the performances. So on the pass-fail scale, I got to give it a 5 out of 10. I got to give it just that cannot recommend kind of deal. Now, if this is one maybe in a couple years, or if it's as it's coming out on VOD or whatever, if it's like, okay, you want to give it a shot, if you're interested in this stuff, or you're curious, you remember the Tammy Faye, Jim Baker deal and everything there, yeah, you might find it, if you were alive during that time and you were following it actively, you might get a little more out of it than I did. But as it stands, I got to give that one a 5 out of 10. The next one is Mass, and this is the kind of the big dramatic. It's just 4 people sitting down having a conversation kind of deal. And we talked about this one a little bit, but anyways, so this one I actually surprisingly, because it's a very I'm going to look up what the score is here on Rotten Tomatoes, because it was from Sundance and stuff this year, just out of the gate, just so many impressive reviews. 95% on Rotten Tomatoes and everything there. And yeah, I gotta say right off the bat here, the cast is outstanding. All 4 of them are outstanding. Jason Isaacs, Martha Plimpton, Ann Dowd, and Reed Birney. I think we got them all. All 4 of them come to play. They all have great moments. All 4 of them get a monologue or two that just absolutely suck you in, and you're like, okay, here's this character, and I'm with this character. I mean, I'm, all that stuff. They bring you, right in. And I have to commend the writing here too. The screenplay really did a good job with the scenario here. Because this one, we've talked about what the premise is before, but I'm actually really surprised because the movie doesn't make it clear what the premise is until almost a half an hour in, before they finally spill the guts on why are these people meeting? Why is it these 2 parents and these 2 parents that are meeting up here today? Kind of deal. And everything there. But as far as the actual dialogue, as far as the circumstances of how these people are talking to each other, and as far as all that stuff goes, I have to say, this does feel like this might not have been rehearsed. This literally, at many moments, feels like, okay, this was something that maybe actual parents have said in circumstances like this with school shootings and the aftermath and stuff in the past. It does feel very much like that, and it feels like that's the case there. So yeah, right off the bat, I got to give it those 2 compliments, because it's really, really, really great in that. And I'm usually a very big fan of movies like this, and I love the idea of movies like this where it's just so focused, laser focused on the story it's telling, and it's in one setting and stuff. I've always talked about I would love to do a kind of historical fiction kind of thing between Grant and Lee, and how their conversation at Appomattox there, how that went down, and the whole you could do a 2-hour movie about that, or a 2-hour play, 2.5-hour play, whatever. So all that being said, I gotta be honest here. This movie, unfortunately, though, takes it way, way, way too slow. And I was getting very agitated, very irritated early on in this movie, because it just takes its time. So much time to get into it. And it's an hour, like an hour 46 or something, hour 45 without credits. But man, for all the stuff they have to cover, all the situations they have to cover, and stories they have to tell, and accusations to make against each other and stuff, they take a long time to get there. I mean, I'm not even joking when I say this. In the hour 45-minute movie or so, where it's just the conversation between the 4 people, it takes 20 minutes for them all to get on screen. It's about that. In the actual runtime, it's probably closer to like 17, 18 minutes. But the point is, it takes a long, long time to get set up. And when they do start talking, and I'm kind of mixed on this, because it's like, okay, well, I totally get the approach here, because in real life, if you were doing this, if this had happened to you, and now you are face to face with somebody who you're probably 9 days out of 10 going to say, I don't want to be close to this person because of what has happened, because of the circumstance, because of how awkward it is, because of what this person has thrown at me, what their child has done or not done, all that stuff. And it's like, yeah, I get that, but even then, the opening parts of the conversation also take forever. Just take forever. And I was getting to a point where I'm like, okay, this is gonna they're gonna get into the conversation parts of it, right? I mean, they're gonna get to it, right? I mean, this is not a joke movie. This is not going to be like one of the ultimate pranks, pulled out for money. Because I was getting so bored. I was watching the paint dry. Seriously, it was getting to that point with this movie. And, yeah, and then also when it gets toward the ending, after, the one thing, I guess, that the one parents wanted or whatever, once that happens and all that, which they're very, yeah, it's like all that stuff. Yeah, it gets there. It gets there. It's like it also has kind of an ending which goes on for about 10 minutes, and even that I thought was just the pacing. I just thought was off with that too. And again, I'm mixed on giving that criticism too, because again, I think doing this approach, doing it this way, you can't really. I don't know if you'd be able to change it. I mean, you'd have to almost completely redo the movie as an 80-minute movie, and cut out a lot of stuff to get there. And maybe in that version, maybe it's better, maybe it's not. But the point is, for me, it just, as it is, just does not work. And the other thing, too, unfortunately, I think, is it also kind of really doesn't seem to me like this conversation, the whole purpose of the movie, the reason why they're having this conversation, it really doesn't seem like it's anything all that groundbreaking. Because it feels like everything that has been said by the end of the movie, except for a couple very personal stories that the adults get into about their kid and what happened to them before the school shooting stuff. Other than that stuff, it's like, okay, everybody who goes into this room, they say over and over again, we've read all the stuff, we've read all your statements, we've read this, we've read... So it's like, okay, so if you know everything already, why are you having this conversation other than to get it out of the way? And again, I am mixed on that criticism, because I understand that in real life this could happen, and it could happen that way. And obviously in real life, yes, in real life people want that closure and everything. But in this case, it's a movie, and it is a movie. So it's like, until there's the very last kind of story that is told, and I won't say who gives it or whatever, because it's kind of I guess a little bit of a giveaway there. But at that point, that's where I'm like, okay, so this is, kind of like Power of the Dog, where it's like, okay, so this was what we were getting to the whole time. But it's like, it does kind of feel like, okay, well, all these efforts, this conversation stuff, they're kind of fruitless, because there's almost no new information being shared, because all the information, as the way it's set up in the story, has already been given. It's already been shared between the four adults. So, yeah. So again, I'm mixed on this one too. And I'm not going to be a full contrarian here. I'm giving it the 6 out of 10 as a recommendation here. But I do have to say, this, especially if you're not in the mood for this movie, you're probably not going to like it. If you go into this movie and you're like, okay, I'm ready for a serious kind of dramatic, no punchlines, no, comic relief things, and I don't really remember there being any. It was kind of just solemn the whole time. Yeah, if you're ready for that, then yeah, I would say you're probably might get more out of it than I did. But still, as it is, yeah, it is because the performances are that good, and because they do stand out that much, and because I do have to give the writer, director credit on all that stuff. Yeah, I am going to recommend it, but again, I do have reservations, and I have to say this is one I don't know if I'm never going to watch it again, but it's, yeah, I'm not, yeah, I would say down the road, yeah, I'll probably end up seeing it again at some point, but I'm not really desiring to see it right away here. Okay, 2 down, 2 to go. Next one is The French Dispatch, and this one, I have to say, I've only seen, of Wes Anderson's filmography, I've only seen this one, and I've seen Grand Budapest Hotel. And I have to say, right off the bat, like the first 10 minutes of this movie, I got excited, because I was like, okay, this feels like almost a unofficial sequel to Grand Budapest Hotel. It's got the great camera work, and it's Robert Yeoman, I believe he did both films, if I'm remembering the name correctly here for the cinematographer. It's got Alexander Desplat's score, which it's not the exact ringing of Grand Budapest score, but his music here is fucking phenomenal. Just absolutely perfect. Just fits it so well. And yeah, the art direction, it's beguiling. It's so good how they do it. And it's never for a moment do you not believe that these sets are exactly where they're setting it. You know, it never feels like this is people, actors on a set just walking around. It feels like the environment. It feels like this world that Wes Anderson has created here. Absolutely 100%. And yes, the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so, whatever, I was laughing and I was having a great time, and I thought the actors, you know, even though it's not that big an ensemble yet, I'm like, the actors are having fun together, and it's a good setup, and I'm like, I am enjoying this. And then the rest of the movie happened. And I do have some complaints here with this one too. I think really for me, the biggest problem is two big things here. Number one, if you look back at Grand Budapest Hotel, I think one of the big things that I loved about that movie was that when it was tricking around with the aspect ratios and jumping from black and white to color, it did so in just such a perfect rhythm. I mean, so good a rhythm. I mean, it made sense. When they cut to the aspect ratio for Grand Budapest when it was in the 30s, like the earliest setting of the film, it was the shrunken, I can't remember the exact numbers or whatever, but it was the shrunken ratio, as it would appear at that time if it was a film coming out at that time, the smallest ratio or whatever. Then they got to like the 60s, 50s, whatever it was, the Jude Law section with F. Murray Abraham as well. Where it's later on. Then it was, you know, the fuller screen, and then we get to the 80s or beyond or whatever with it's, you know, kind of brief, but the stuff with Tom Wilkinson, and here he is the older version of the author and stuff, and now it's full screen and it's, you know, full ratio and everything. And it made sense. And the stuff that wasn't in color, the black and white scene, which is the only one I can remember off the top of my head from that one, was the aftermath scene where poor Gustav H. I guess we can spoil that one because it's almost 8 years old now. Is Gustav H. when he kind of gives his life for Zero when the soldiers are gonna throw him out or whatever. Beautiful sequence in that movie, and it's just so well done. Unfortunately, with French Dispatch, and I did watch it on the screen here, so I wasn't sure. I wasn't really able to pay attention all that much to the aspect ratios. I didn't know if it was going to be able to do that. So I plead ignorance on that one. So I don't know if they were switching it all the time or not, but it seemed like they were messing with it a little bit here too. But it just felt like, okay, when it came to the difference between black and white and color, with this one, at times, even after it's been almost 24 hours since I've finished the film, I'm still not sure what the reasoning was for it. I just can't put my finger on it and give the explanation for why this particular shot had to be in color and this one goes back to black and white, or vice versa. It just made no sense to me, and there was no logical reasoning for it. There's no internal logic to why it would go to that. Aside from one thing, I saw once I kind of figured out the one in the first segment there, the first piece, whatever, because it's kind of like I kind of like the idea of it though, where it's different vignettes, and it's like, okay, you almost read it like it's different sections of the paper. You see, like the French Dispatch, it's like, okay, in this issue we start with this, then you go to this, and you go to this, and those are your three major stories there. But yeah, with this one, it was like, okay, that first one, which is the Benicio del Toro one, Léa Seydoux one, the artist one, it's like, okay, I guess there's the brief image, you know, there's one shot of color when the work is first displayed. But then it goes back to black and white. So it's like, at first I thought it was it's a Wizard of Oz thing. Okay, they open the door, it's in color. There you go. It's like this world is so bleak and stuff, and it's black and white because this guy hasn't done his painting yet, and now he's done his painting, now the world's in color. Almost like Pleasantville, too, if you think about it that way, except it's not gradual like that film is. No, it's not. It's not. So that it just kept bothering me and kept bothering me and kept bothering me as the film went on. And we got to the last segment, the last story, the last vignette there, which is kind of a lengthier one. And it's like, okay, it does that again a little bit, but then it gets to a part of the end, and it's like almost all of the ending of that one, like the last 3-4 minutes of it, it changes completely, and it's a different style now. And I'm actually not going to give it away. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. But if you haven't, I'm not going to spoil that up front for you. But what it does, it's like, at first I was like, oh, this is really, kind of charming the way they're doing this, and it looks beautiful the way they're doing this, and it really looks good. But I was like, but at the back of my mind, I'm still thinking, I'm like, why the hell is it like this now? What cued it to be like this all of a sudden? Why is this in this style? Why is this not presentable in the other style? It makes no sense. And there's no explanation for it, except I can think of two like behind the scenes examples. Number one, they ran out of money and they had to do it this way. Or two, COVID happened and they were like, well, shit, we can't get the actors together now to do these final sequences and stuff. Let's just do it this way. And it's like, oh, okay. Unless it's really that and that's the only reason for it, I don't know. I just can't really explain that one. Yeah, and also another thing, and I don't, not to make direct comparisons again to Grand Budapest, but just to show kind of how that one I think is going to be one that sticks around for a while, and that one is probably going to be for a lot of people, until we get one like that again from Wes Anderson, where it kind of takes off of the public and becomes over $100 million worldwide picture. That one, you can remember the characters. You remember Gustav H. You remember Zero. You remember some of the other characters in there, the author and stuff. And even if you can't remember their names, you remember the characters as they pop up here. With this one, I gotta say, aside from Jeffrey Wright, whose character I really liked and his performance I really liked, he's a standout in this. In the last vignette there. And also there's a chef character in that last act that I really liked, and the performance was great, and the character actually, his last sequence there, or kind of some of his last stuff was actually really good and stuff. Other than that, I really can't pick out too many characters who I will say, oh, I remember them so well, or I like them so well. It's like the Del Toro character is kind of one note. The Sadu character is kind of one note. Their story and everything, it's like, okay, they kind of go a little bit into it, but then they pull back, and it's just, the plot takes over. The same goes with the middle section with Frances McDormand and Timothée Chalamet and a couple of the others in there. It's like, okay, well, the character's kind of there. I don't remember any specifics about them. I don't know. It just, yeah, it's just kind of a thing. And it's an impressive cast, for sure. But it's like, yeah, other than, yeah, those two that I mentioned, and then the Bill Murray character I'll remember a little bit, because he kind of shows up periodically and stuff. Because his character is kind of the editor of the paper and stuff. So obviously he's going to have a little bit to do here and there. But other than that, I really don't think I'm going to remember too much from this one. And it's also just because of the way its internal logic isn't really as clear to me, at least. I think that's also why it's really, in comparison, minus pandemic and stuff, cutting down on box office and everything. I think that's part of the reason why this one is not going to stick around as long. It's not going to be as fondly remembered. I don't think, critics are kind of mixed on this one too, so that I can understand why. Yeah. Anyways. But the other thing is, and I'm kind of alluding to this, this just could not hold my interest. It was like an hour, I think, again, without credits, it's about an hour 43 or something like that, hour 45, somewhere in that range. But even then, it felt like an over 2 hour movie versus Grand Budapest, which goes right by and you're like, wow, it just takes you on that ride and you never for a second are bored during that movie. I did. I checked my watch several times through this. In particular, the middle section with the Timothée Chalamet stuff and all that. Yeah, it just could not hold my interest. I couldn't get into the characters. I couldn't get into their scenarios. It was kind of slow. The stuff with the artist, like I talked about, it's like, yeah, that stuff. Yeah, eventually you kind of, it's like, okay, not as interesting. The last one I thought rebounded a little bit, and I thought it was more interesting. You could get into those characters a little bit more, and you could kind of start to root for certain characters in that one more. But no, the other two bigger ones, the kind of two other main stories there, no, not so much. But yeah, again, I will give 100% credit to the production design and the score here. So well done. Just so standouts here. And even to a degree, even though I kind of crapped all over it there. The screenplay does have a couple moments where it goes into full Wes Anderson mode with with the dialogue and stuff. Where I'm like, okay, that's witty, that's funny, that's very memorable, that's very poignant, almost somewhat emotional and stuff. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's nice stuff. But it's just I don't know. I just didn't. I just wasn't on board 100% for this one, and it just didn't work for me. So this one again, I've got my praises for it, but I've also got reservations on it, and I think I'm not going to be able to recommend this one either. It's a 5 out of 10 for me. If you're a Wes Anderson purist, of course, you've probably already seen it 2-3 times, and you're probably saying, I just don't get it, whatever, that's fine. And yeah, it's Wes Anderson is definitely one of those filmmakers like Christopher Nolan or a Tarantino or a... name the other examples there, where it's like when a film of theirs comes out, it's kind of a big event for their fan base. They just jump right out and they're like, yes, this is, I've been waiting months for this. I've been seeing all the trailers day after day and stuff. It's like, it's such a big thing. It's like their world stops when that film releases, and they go out and they watch it twice opening weekend and stuff, and they just, they love it to pieces, no matter how good or bad or whatever that everybody says in advance. They're like, oh, fuck those people, I'm going to love it, kind of deal. Which is nice. I mean, everybody can feel the way they want to feel and stuff, but yeah, this one didn't do it for me. All right, so that leaves us with the film I love the most of these four, and it's instantly like, yes, this is one of the best films I've seen all year. And it's The Harder They Fall. I gotta say, I went into this one and I really didn't know what the expectations were. I knew it was a Western. I knew it was, mostly black cast or, whatever there. It was, it's very mixed cast otherwise, not a lot of white people in it, in other words, and everything. And I was like, okay, that's kind of all I know. I was just so on board with this movie. I just thought it was excellent. There are funny moments. There are even tragic moments and sad moments in this. There's big dramatic tension-filled moments in this. There's great Western moments in this. There's even some decent romantic stuff in this. I just thought it hit everything really well. There's music moments in this. It's really good. I mean, especially the song "The Guns Go Bang," which goes over the credits. Yes, that's a great song. And I seriously, if that does not get in for original song, having not heard most of the competition yet, that is a crime if that does not get nominated. Because that is an instantly catchy song. Instantly so good. And the performances were great here. Jonathan Majors, who, okay, I guess it's out long enough. It's been, 8 months? No, okay, maybe not that long. When did Loki end? It's like August, right? Something like that. Jonathan Majors, I guess, minor spoiler if you haven't seen Loki yet, but he shows up in the last episode, and he's kind of a villain of sorts in that. I gotta say, I don't know if I said it on camera or not before, but his character and his performance and the way his character was written or whatever, directed or whatever it was, that character pissed me the fuck off. I mean, I've seen Jonathan Majors in other stuff, what he did in last year with Da 5 Bloods, and I was like, this is a really good actor. I'm like, this guy's good. And I was like, even last year with that for supporting actor, I was like, they could do a candidacy for him. He's really good in that, in Da 5 Bloods. And here, when he showed up in Loki in that one episode, he pissed me off. I'm like, this character is annoying. He's nails on a chalkboard. Again, I don't know if it's the performance, I don't know if it's the direction or the writing or a combination of all of them. It did not work for me. And when that character was off screen and gone, I was like, thank God. Adios. Good riddance. You fucking goddamn. Oh, just so annoying. I was just so like, okay, the whole series, which I haven't seen Hawkeye yet, but the rest of the Marvel's miniseries / shows, I was like, that I like that one the best of the three I've seen. So I was like, the whole thing led up to that? Oh, come on. It's kind of like, without getting into all of them right away, but it's like Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The last episode there, I thought the first half was amazing, and I was like, that's what I wanted to see. That was a great ending. And the second half of it got preachy, and then it got really, really rushed. And you're like, okay, where did that come from? Okay, does that that doesn't even make sense for that character to do that? I mean, it was like a really rough final 25 minutes or whatever. Kind of like with Loki, it's like every scene with that villain character, it's like, oh, it was just such a letdown. I was like, oh, I just did not like that character. But no, I'm right back. So for a while there, I was like, oh, I'm like, God, I hope, because that's a character we presume is going to come back as a different variant or whatever, as Kang the Conqueror. So I'm like, okay, Kang the Conqueror, because from what I've seen of like the animated shows of the Avengers, the more recent ones, okay, it was the, because I saw the whole thing of the one they did when the Avengers movies were first starting up. It was Avengers, I think that's Earth's Mightiest Heroes or whatever. It's the one that's not, the one that doesn't have Falcon in it as like a main character. Because that one was like later on, that one they did when like Winter Soldier was coming out or something, or after Winter Soldier was out or something. Which is a real shame, because the first show they did, which was only 2 seasons, that one I watched, actually, I think it was just added to Netflix like after the first Avengers movie came out. So I'm like, oh, okay. And I was like, yeah, it looks childish. The design on some of the characters, yes, does not look all that good. It looks very childish. It looks extremely Saturday morning cartoon. Like, it kind of throws you off a little bit. We'll get back to it. I just have to get off. I have to get this off my chest. But no, it was like that series. I was like, okay, you know what? I'll just try it. And yeah, it was kind of, the first few episodes are like, oh, we're just introducing the Avengers and stuff. I'm like, okay, well, I just saw a whole series on introducing these guys, introducing Thor, and oh, here's his brother and his dad, Odin and Loki. And oh, here's Iron Man. Oh, yeah, well, we know. Yeah, we've seen the first couple movies and stuff. And here's Captain America, and it's like, yeah, we know. He fought Red Skull, and he had Bucky as a sidekick. They have a different, almost totally different version of him in the comics that is more faithful in the show there, animated series. And it was like, oh, it was a little while. But then once it got going, I actually thought when we got to the end of that first part of the series, which is when the Avengers finally do get all united on screen, I was like, there's wow moments in that cartoon, animated show. I'm just saying cartoon just for the sake of it, whatever. But yeah, I get it. People get offended by that. They're like, it's animated series. And I'm like, I know. But when we got to, I'm like, there's moments in that series that are bigger wow moments than actual big wow moments in the first Avengers film. I was like, seriously, that's how I felt about it. And I thought as the series went on, I was like, I just kept liking it and liking it and liking it even more. So Kang the Conqueror, when he came into that series, that was my introduction of the character. And I really liked the idea of what they did with Kang the Conqueror there, and the whole idea of the character. Somebody from like 1,000, 2,000 years in the future who has conquered the universe, or just Earth, whichever, and can play with time, and can play with elements and stuff, and can do all this stuff. I'm like, that's a really cool villain if the Avengers ever fight him. And so I'm like, that would be a really good one for the Avengers to fight. I'd love to see what Thor or Iron Man or Captain America or some of these other characters would do against Kang the Conqueror and stuff. So when they were kind of alluding to him being in the series and stuff now, Marvel Cinematic Universe, I was like, okay, I love it. I love that he's going to be in it. And yeah, then that was my introduction to him. And I was like, oh, fuck. I'm like, no. I'm like, come on. You're squandering all this stuff. Come on. This cannot be your take on it, guys. You guys are too smart for this. But yeah, then they're like, oh, this might just be just a silly variant of his. Okay. Well, I hope to God, because if Kang the Conqueror shows up and it's Jonathan Majors doing the performance he did in that Loki episode, I'm going to be so let down. I am just going to be so disappointed. I don't think that's the way they're going to do it. But if they do, oh boy, I am not going to be happy, because that pissed me off in that end of that series. But getting back to it here, as an actor, again, in this film, Harder They Fall, he's really, really good. Idris Elba as the villain is fantastic. Really good. They build up his introduction, and it does not disappoint. Delroy Lindo, I thought, was great. Zazie Beetz was great. We get to Lakeith Stanfield as one of the villains. God, he is awesome in this. Really good. Just his introductory scene. Wow. He is such a memorable character. But I'll tell you, the one who I think steals the show, the one who I would say Netflix, the fact that you did not campaign this woman to be in supporting actress, because I think in reality, I think she would have actually stood a good chance of getting in, possibly, without having seen all the competition this year. That's Regina King. She steals every scene that she is in. Boom. Your attention immediately goes to her. And there is one monologue she gives about midway through the film. She's talking to the Zazie Beetz character. I don't want to give way too many other things away. But when she's talking to her, there is a monologue she gives that is like chilling, and you're like, whoa, okay. So, yeah, I haven't seen the Watchmen show or whatever, because I know she got tons of great reviews for that too. But I was like, if you weren't already saying Regina King is somebody who every time she pops up, kind of like I was talking about Willem Dafoe last time when we got to like Spider-Man and stuff. It's like every time she comes in, she comes to play. So get ready, because she is going to knock your socks off again and again and again, because she is just that good an actress. And I think that cements that status for her as well. Yes, so I nothing but the highest praises in among the cast there. But yeah, the Western stuff they do really well, all the good shootouts and draws and stuff. All that stuff was really good. So, some good surprises in the movie. I'll just leave it at that. But yes, there were genuinely moments where I'm like, whoa, I did not see that coming, and I am floored by that, and that is incredible. There's good, the violence in the film is depicted really well, where it doesn't go too overboard, and if it does go overboard, it does it in a fun way, where it doesn't feel like it's oppressing you with the violence and all that stuff. There's funny moments in the movie. There's two particular characters that are part of the main gang that go back and forth, and I'm like, these two have great chemistry together. And yeah, every moment they get on screen together, you're like, okay, I'm loving this. But yeah, every character has a good story and a good setup. Generally, it does feel like, none of the characters are introduced of the main characters where you're like, okay, well, what do we know about this character? Not much. It's like, no, everyone kind of gets a good moment to shine, and a little, at least a little bit of time to set up the character too. Where if they do something later, you're not surprised. When, like a certain character does something later on in the film, you're like, okay, well, how the hell would that have happened? You're like, oh, there was a little bit of setup to that earlier. That's right. Everything kind of clicks. So hats off. I don't know the director's name, who I believe also co-wrote the film. But yeah, this is a all-time, like, okay, you guys nailed it. Like, this is, it's fun, but it's also works as a dramatic film. It's kind of all over the board, as far as its genre and stuff too at times, but they really do walk those lines very well. And when it does twist and turn, when it goes into more dramatic material, but then goes back to comedic stuff, it does it very well, where it's not, it's not a surprise. It's not we're lambasting you now with a big dramatic scene after you had this good, kind of comic relief moment. No, when it does it, it feels like it's flowing very well. And, again, as we've seen many times in the past, that can be a very difficult thing to do. But this movie makes it look easy. And, yeah, I'm very impressed. Great dialogue, great characters, good story. It's a good Western story, where it's like, okay, yeah, you can probably point out different examples of where this would come from, where that would come from. Sure, but it's like, I don't know, it feels like that's one genre where it's like, okay, it's kind of hard to do a completely original Western nowadays, where it's like completely everything that happens is kind of new. The one example recently that I rewatched, I'd seen it a couple years ago, but was like, good. This is a good story too. We were sitting there at my house at Thanksgiving, and all the families there, and we're kind of bored. There's the football games, whatever, are done for the day, but we're like, okay, well, what do we want to watch now or whatever? And we're like, I don't know. My dad was like, oh, let's put on a good, because he likes westerns and war films are kind of his two go-tos. Unless there's like Shooter, like one of those good kind of mid-2000s action movies or something. He'll watch those all the time. But westerns, he's like, yeah, I like a good western. So I'm like, the first one, I don't know why it came to mind, but I'm like, oh, you want a good western with Kurt Russell? How about Bone Tomahawk? Those of you who have seen it, oh boy, yeah, you can imagine how that went down. They were not fans of it. They liked the first half, but when you get to the second half, when it turns extremely violent, almost into a horror film. Sorry if I'm giving it away for those of you who are haven't seen it, but it's been out for almost 7 years now, so you had your chance. Sorry. But when we get to the scenes where certain people get disemboweled and totally obliterated and totally whatever, and there's troglodytes and all that stuff, it's like, and the sounds they make, and it's like that movie stuck with me for many reasons. But that I was like, I don't know, just that one I felt like was like a totally like that was a lot of stuff you hadn't seen in a Western before. So that's an example. And also, Slow West was one where there were a couple things in that don't ordinarily pop up in a Western that I was really, really appreciative of when I saw that. So that's a couple examples there. Wasn't that Cody Smith McPhee in that one too? Because I was thinking about it too, because with Power of the Dog and stuff. Because I'm like, I think he was in that one too, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Slow West is one. I got around to it, a couple of years after it was out. But I was like, wow, even though it's a shorter movie and stuff, I was like, that's in the last decade, that's one of the best Westerns ever for that decade. I'm like, it really was an incredible, incredible job. Michael Fassbender's awesome in that. And Cody Smith McPhee, I thought, actually did a better job in that than he does in Power of the Dog, actually. He might actually end up winning a couple awards for that. We'll see. But yeah, that one I'm not going to give too much away because I know that one has been kind of critically underseen, but there's a couple things they do in that Western where I'm like, okay, I haven't really seen it done quite this way in the Western. I'm like, whoa, that's impressive. Anyways, but and yeah, sure, there's a couple of things with this one almost being I can't really think of too many like exclusively like mostly black cast Westerns out there. Not that I can think of. And right off the bat, with some of the advertising and stuff, at first I got a little bit of an impression. Not to say that I was going to think one way or other about the film, because I always judge the film, not on the advertising, not on the whatever political statement the film seems to be making or whatever. If it's an Oliver Stone thing or if it's something like this, where it's like, okay, politics are probably going to come into it at some point. So to an extent, I actually would not have been surprised if I walked into this one and it's like, oh, it's down with Whitey kind of deal where it's like, okay, if the West was just conquered by, African Americans or whatever, freed slaves, it would have been a lot better or whatever. It's like, no, that's not the approach this movie takes at all. So I know that a couple people I talked to that were discussing the film, they were like, oh, I don't know, a lot of these films lately and stuff, they're like, I think that's what it is. And I was like, really? And then so I watched the trailer. I'm like, well, I don't really think so. And the trailer didn't immediately give that impression off. I don't think, not to everybody at least, but at least to a couple people I talked to, they were like, yeah, that's what it's about. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I don't know, but no, that's not. This movie has like almost nothing to do with that. So, anyways, now that's neither here nor there. But it's just, I know some people I think haven't gotten around to this one, but no, if you have not. See this one. It's really, really fantastic. I can't think of too many things to criticize here. Because, again, the songs and the soundtrack, all that was good. Acting was great. Screenplay is great. Really, even the directorial job and stuff, the style and the camera work and stuff, this just feels like the people... it kind of reminds me, actually, a lot last year of Pieces of a Woman, where it's like, okay, the people who are doing this movie love movie making. When they're directing this movie or they're acting this movie, these are people who take film seriously. And they love what they do. And they put a lot of thought into what they're doing here. Not just on the screenplay level, but on the set level where they're like, okay, this camera shot, we're going to do it like this. And it's going to go through the window pane and go from one room here all the way across this street. And it's going to end up as a kind of medium close-up on this character who is like, a quarter of a mile away from where we started or whatever. It takes it seriously, and I appreciate that to the utmost. I absolutely do. So yeah, you can guess. This is a 10 out of 10. I really can't think of anything off the bat right off this movie that made me really like criticize it. Nothing that gave me a huge reservation like the other three films we discussed here today. So there you go. That one, I say yes. If you're looking for a film and it's unfortunate that it's not really going to be Netflix's bigger play for the Oscars here, because again, I would say 100 days out of 100, I would say this is a film I would easily rewatch over Power of the Dog. It's obviously it's totally different films. It's totally different in that way. But I thought for this one, I was so entertained all the way through. Never a dull moment. Nothing, everything that happens for a reason. And there's, again, certain surprises and shocks where you're like, oh, even on the second viewing, there's stuff you might still get a kick out of. So, yeah, that's that one. Harder They Fall. I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed this one. And again, I didn't go in with expectations of what it was going to be or whatever. I just knew just a couple things about it, and I was like, okay, just don't suck. It's like, again, I always say that's the expectation I go into with every movie. It's don't suck. Don't be a waste of my time. Whatever, kind of along the same parameters. You get it, but yeah. Okay, that's it for me. So yeah, like I said, we've got the Golden Globe Awards tomorrow night. Depending on how quickly those wrap up or whatever, yep, we'll get into the aftermath of that, and we'll talk about what possible ramifications that'll have for the rest of the season. We'll get the final predictions out for SAG some point there, Monday or Tuesday. Maybe maybe if I get time, I'll do it Monday. Yeah, there's a couple things where I'm like, okay, I don't know. As far as my predictions here for SAG from last time, like I did have Harder They Fall. I have that getting in for Ensemble. God, after seeing this, I actually think it could happen. I'm not, again, I'm not putting a bunch of money down on it happening. But if it does happen, I'm going to be like so glad that I called it, because it's a decent sized ensemble. They work well together. I'm like, again, there's kind of a mix here of actors and actresses who have done some TV stuff and other film stuff. So I'm like, this seems to tick a lot of the right boxes for a film that SAG would go for. Plus, it's Netflix, and we all know they love their Netflix. So, yeah, I'm sticking with it for now. Unless there's a last-minute argument, something comes up where I'm like, you know what? I'm actually going to change my mind here. But no, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. Plus, again, what I talked about Netflix with the big fault with Don't Look Up, where I'm thinking that one is almost 100% not going to get in for Ensemble. The credits here are like single credit. And it's like, I counted like 8 or 9, which is going to be about the same size as Power of the Dog. So, yes, I'm still sticking with that one, getting in for Ensemble. But yeah, like I said, we'll get into the final predictions here on Monday or Tuesday, preferably on Monday, so I have a little bit more opportunity to do it there. Tuesday, I might feel a little rushed, and I might make some last-minute decisions that'll just, totally make you like, why did you do that, you frickin' dumbass, dipshit? But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. All right, that's enough for me, and yeah, for the rest of my list here, I don't know if I'm going to get to anything before that, so we'll have some reviews for these other ones here later on when I get some time. But again, I really do want to get into like some of the ones that are still playing here, so I can see them in the theater. Because again, I want to see them in the theater. Theater is always my preference for watching movies, especially new ones and some old ones too. I love going back to see old ones too. So, all right. Have a good one, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow after the Globes.